this is Destin right here, and this is where the bridge is, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what happened is in 1926 we had a hurricane, and it went stationary up here, and all of the water was coming down these rivers, and then there was all of this erosion, which was really creating a lot of problems, and where the opening to the harbor today is here, it used to be down at the other end, and so it would be right there.
Oh.
That's where it used to be, okay?
Oh, that's
And so
something.
all of this water had to get out, and there's bayous, and there's a sound that will take you to Pensacola. So a lot of water was coming out of the harbor. So the harbor was 6 feet higher than the Gulf of Mexico. And so 4 men went down with their shovels and they dug a trench, and every day it got wider and wider. And so when that happened, this down here started closing. And so that is why we have
Well, that's quite a story.
Yeah, it is.
When was that? What year?
About 1926.
Okay.
Yeah, my grandmother said she thought she was going to lose her home. It was so scary.
Wow.
And so anyway, so what happened is that in 1934 they started building the bridge. There's a picture of the bridge. And so that started changing Destin, because before, all those little boats down there had been seine boats, and the seine boat is just a net boat. They were net fishermen. And so all of a sudden people said, I think I want to come to Destin. So they started coming to Destin to go fishing. And so then you started getting the little mom and pop cottages, little motels, and little restaurants, and basically those, like I said, those little fishing boats, they became charter boats. And then things started kind of taking off. Yeah.
Well, it has taken off.
It has. Yeah, and it's spreading, which is good. You know.
This way?
Oh, yeah, if you like. These are some paintings that were done by a folk artist. His name was John Destin, and you could not.
A descendant of Captain Destin?
Yes, he was a descendant. And anyway, you could not buy one of these paintings. He would take a book full of booze. That's how he's got paid. And so okay, a few years ago, there's the dates for him right there. And so we said, if you have one of his paintings, how about bringing it? So we had 69 of them here. And so we.
How many bottles of liquor did that cost you?
No, so anyway, but he would paint on whatever he could find, but he did such a great job there, you know.
Well, what was the relation to Captain Leonard Destin? Do you know, was he grandson maybe, or?
I don't know which generation he was. I'll have to think about that. If you were to talk to Dewey Destin, he has a couple of restaurants here.
Yeah.
He's a descendant, and he could the details as to which generation. And these are some fish mounts here.
This is not the only day you've ever volunteered here, surely?
I've been here for about 14 years. I'm related to most of the people that are here.
To Destin's?
Yeah, I am related to some of them, not all of them. My grandmother. Okay, my grandfather was a model, and my grandmother was a Maltese. And my grandmother and her sisters, they decided that they were going to build a Greek Orthodox chapel, in honor and in memory of their father, and so they did. And
now the Greek Orthodox Church in Fort Walton Beach.
They were members of that church.
Okay.
But this was a family chapel, which got to be kind of large. And
where was it?
Well,
or is it still?
No, it's sad. Okay. No, it's really sad. What happened is that my grandmother died first, and so her sister finished it, and it worked out, nice. But then she decided that she would give it to the diocese in Atlanta. They're going, a family chapel. She had restrictions that went with it, like in order to use it, you had to be a descendant of John George Maltese, which I am. but you also had to be Greek Orthodox. Well, I'm Anglican, so
Okay.
and that happened a lot in the family. See, because many years before that, John George Maltese would take his children by boat to Pensacola. But one day there was an Episcopal missionary who showed up, and so then they started having the Episcopal services in their home. And so that's how we all got to,
That's how you. That's how you became Anglican,
well, a little,
Episcopal.
well, Episcopal, and then became an Anglican.
Okay, I guess I don't know the distinction between Episcopal and Anglican. Anglican is still Church of England, and Episcopal is
The Episcopal Church came out of the Church of England.
okay. Because I know George Washington, the church he went to over by where the Twin Towers was, the chapel, St. John's Chapel, I think,
Mm-hmm.
it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
That survived the collapse. That was his church, George Washington's.
Yeah. So anyway, but this is a picture of my grandfather, and his name is Dave Marler, and there's a restaurant in town called Captain Dave's, but he was a descendant of William Thomas Marler, and the bridge is named after him, and he was the first postmaster.
And this was your grandfather Marler.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was the first postmaster. His father was, and so he was. They said you can name the town, and so he named the town Destin, after Leonard Destin, who gave him a job when he was 13 years old. At 13, he became basically the breadwinner for the family. And so there's an article about him, which is right here. It was in the Reader's Digest, and you can have a copy of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's a little bit.
And that's your grandfather.
Grandfather, great grandfather. And then down the way, there's a picture of my great grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Now the blue stained glass there, which is lovely color of blue. Was that part of the original chapel?
Yeah, it was.
That's just taken out of that and
yeah,
saved.
Basically what happened is that.
Oh, that's the picture there.
Yeah, that's a picture of it. But basically what happened, it got down to about one family, and so the Greek Church, this Orthodox Church, they decided that they would sell it. And it was beginning to need some repairs and stuff. And so there's a barbecue restaurant sitting on it today.
Now at the bar, what's the name of it? Or you didn't know there was going to be a test. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to get anyway, but this is what they would have these young boys to do. You see this boat right here? All right, they didn't have motors in the boat until the Primrose, which is out there.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one that had a motor in it. So they would have to tow these lines over these nets out into the Gulf, and they're made of this cotton here, and so they're once they get wet, they're heavy, and now you're hoping that fish will go in there, and now you've got to pull all those out.
Huh.
And then you've got to take all that line, and you've got to put it on a reel and dry it out, otherwise it will rot. But these right here, these are all seine boats. If you were to take off the tops, that is that was the early fishing, and the people, their homes were on all of these sandy bluffs.
Well, I've been to the Captain Leonard Destin Park, and read the thing, the part from the diary from his young daughter.
Yeah,
It wrote about some of the catches and amazing large catches of pompano and stuff.
Yeah, and so pompano, that's a very good fish. Yeah. But this is a model of the Primrose, which is the boat that is out there on the property.
Oh, okay.
And it was built by my grandmother's father, who came over from Greece.
And that's an example of the type of boats that we use for the seine fishing, huh?
Because seine fishing was very, very popular. And even today, people still do that. You want to catch them on. And so in the early days, the people wanted to buy the land, and the government said no. They wanted to lease the land, and no. So in about 1927, they finally decided that they would sell it. And it was because if you have a mouth that goes into a harbor where the enemy can come in,
mm-hmm.
Then they are very concerned about that. And so, but they knew these people were fishermen, and if anything was going to happen, they knew somebody would tell them about it. But it used to be the Marina Point Military Reservation Survey, and we even today we are surrounded by military. We have the Navy and the Marines at Pensacola, and then we have the Air Force at Hurlburt and at Edwin, and then we have the Coast Guard, and they have to have access to the Gulf, you know, in case of an emergency, and so they pay for all of that, the dredging of the East Pass, but we take care of the mouth of the harbor so that large boats can get in and out. And so but that's a little bit about that. But these are the people who ended up, you know, buying the property. Now, this Billy Marler, who was my grandfather, he also was, in addition to being a postmaster, he also was a lighthouse tender. And when they didn't have a lighthouse, but they had these lights, so he would have to walk from here, you know, over and make sure that these lanterns and all are lights so that the fishing boats, you'd have a light over here and a light down there when they lined up, and you knew it would be safe to come in. So that's how that works. I think that's how I let you earlier. Not really. And this is a picture of Leonard Destin, and he is considered to be, you know, the founder of Destin. And then William T. Marler, which it's kind of his,
Okay.
how the glare is.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
that's your.
All right. This is my great grandfather. His name is William T. Marler. He named the town. The bridge is named after him. These are his two sons, Ernest and Dave. The little one is my grandfather. Their mother died in childbirth. And so I'm a descendant of his first wife. Her name was Carrie Bowers. But then he remarried, and he married a gal named Camilla Brooks. And the John Brooks Bridge is named after her father. And so, but she was an absolute wonderful woman. You know, I can't say enough nice things about her. Everybody really liked her a lot. And so, but this is William Elisha Marler, that is his father. And they came here after, after the Civil War. They came from Georgia, and because during that time, a lot of buildings, records, and things were burned. So that is where our genealogy about the Marlers, that's where it ends. We've tried, you know. But anyway, but there's Leonard Hutchison, and we have some books out there. But he was from New London, Connecticut. It was on its way one year down to the Keys to do some salvage work, and they got caught in a hurricane. And so his father and brother were in a boat. It rolled, and they drowned. And then he and another brother were in another boat. It broke up, and they made it to the shore. And then eventually he made it down to the Keys.
Okay, and he's the namesake Captain Destin is for.
He is considered to be the founder of Destin. You know, Destin's first permanent resident, and he, William T. Marler, is considered to be the patriarch of Destin because he did all the things that a father would do.
And that's your great grandfather.
Great grandfather, yeah, great grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah, and then these are some. This is just what a kitchen would look like back in those days. And by my grandmother's mother, she made that quilt. Her name was Isabel Malteza.
All hand stitched, probably. Or is machine? Maybe in the machine.
She might have had that.
That fancy new modern Singer sewing machine, yeah.
Yeah, that treadle machine. My grandmother in Texas had one like that.
Wow.
Yeah, but in fact, this is a picture of her right here. This is an old one, but there are basically about 19 original families, so you can come through here and you can read about each of the families.
Wow. And a lot of the descendants have stuck around.
Yeah, some of them have. A few of them have left. Over here, these are some rodeo reels, and there were some here that were made by a man. His name was Joy Dunlap. And he was a fly fisherman, and so was President George Bush Sr. And so one of his fishing poles, rod and reels, was presented to President Bush. And his name is Joy Dunlap.
Huh.
Now, this net was made by my grandfather. And you can feel all the weight there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavy. You've got to have that over your shoulder, and you've got to be able to throw it out.
That's cotton threads?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, anyway, he made this as a high school graduation gift for a guy named Eddie Ward.
Now, they're treated with some kind of a waterproofing something, aren't they? It feels...
It says here, the twine, okay, it was made with cotton twine, which was dipped in copper tocks to preserve the yarn.
Okay.
A chain rather than weights was tied to the bottom to hold it down. Well, at any rate, he made this and then gave it to Eddie Ward. Eddie Ward gave it to the museum because he moved to California and said, I don't really have
Now, who made the net?
Dave Marler, my grandfather.
Your grandfather made the net. Okay.
He made the net. And then Jaws 2 was filmed here. And they used his docks and his property to set up their sets and everything. And so they have him as an extra sitting on the dock, either making or mending one of these nets.
Uh-huh.
You know, and
I don't know if that movie was that good for tourism, though.
So anyway, that was he was an extra, but you have to look fast. Yeah, and then these are some equipment that they use, for finding fish. Today everything's really sophisticated. But this guy's named Royal Melvin, and if you were to go across the street from the city parking lot, the city now has a park, and it is the Royal Melvin Park. They bought the property, and anyway, they paid $4 million for 60 feet of land.
Wow.
Pricey. And so anyway, they've got a very nice park there now. So if you want to go and, have a picnic.
What's the name of that park?
Royal Melvin.
And where is it?
It's
right next to Dewey Destin. It's across from the city parking lot.
Okay.
They just opened this new place called Kickin' Chicken.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's
it's right by the
the comfort what is it, the
Village Inn Destin.
Village Inn. It's right across the street from the Village Inn. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and so anyway, but this is some of the equipment that they use. This is a picture of my uncle, and his name was Delbert Marler. There he's using a fathometer. They would use weights like this to see how deep the water was.
Uh-huh.
The early fishing was done with a hand line, and these are just some of the equipment there. These are pictures of my grandfather's boat, the Florida Girl.
Oh, that's your grandfather's boat? I've been on that. Yeah.
Have you?
I've gone out on, well.
So you've been to Destin before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And we have a home up by north of Laurel Hill.
Oh, okay.
So we're locals of a sort.
Yeah, you are. Okay, that's good. Yeah, well, this is a picture of the Primrose way back when. And then these are seine boats, and like I was telling you, when they put the bridge in, these all became little fishing boats. This was the Reveille. It belonged to my grandfather, but he ended up selling it to my father. And then he and his father, my grandfather and William T. Marler, they built this boat here, the Courageous. And then later on they built the Florida Girl, the new Florida Girl. And then over here, my dad, he had the Reveille too. He had it built, but he said he thought this one cut through the waves better. He said that one he thought had a flatter bottom, and
I like the name. I like the name of the Courageous. Remind me, what came to mind was that. Have you ever seen that old movie, Captain's Courageous? I think is the name of it. It's an old black and white movie about
my grandfather's
fishing.
His docks down there during the World War II. They were basically the state docks. That's where they did all of their business that they had to do, I guess. And so that was just but these are all of these boats, though, they all started out as seine boats, and then they all later on, became, fishing boats. And this is, let's see here. These are outriggers. You use these if you want to catch billfish. You just run a line up, down, secure it with a pin, and then you just release the line out there, and it will go around, and then billfish will come up and whack it, and then that line will pop, and then that's when the billfish will go after it.
And this is evidence there's been a little bit of inflation on the
Oh yeah, just a little.
$20 for a
I know.
deep sea fishing trip, half a day. Yeah.
Yeah, gas was a little cheaper then too, along with everything else. Yeah, the reset. Here we are. Here's another picture of Royal Villain right there. All right, there's a picture of the Courageous. I mean, that was what ended up happening is that my grandfather ended up selling it to the military. Oh, that's my grandfather right there, and they towed it out and used it for target practice. So I said, well, at least maybe they made a fishing spot out of it if they didn't go too far. And then on this side over here, these are basically fish that were caught in charter boats, And over here, this is the East Path Bait and Chapel. There's a restaurant down there called the Boathouse, and it's in that area. But this man, he primarily sold fuel and tackle, but there were about 20 boats in those days, and so he had 20 barrels, and he had the name of each boat on the barrel, and then he literally rolled out the barrel. It's like your turn to get fuel. This over here, these are some. We used to have the fly fishermen used to meet here, but now they're meet at the Destin park. There's a house there that they can turn it into like a senior citizens building. They use it for everything. So sure. These are the lures that they use to catch billfish right here.
Yeah, some good sized lures.
Yeah, they kind of look like a squid, And then this is a mola. It's covered with at first it looks like a regular little fish, but then the tail stops growing and the head keeps growing. It can go up to 5,000 pounds. It's covered with a mucus, and it has like 40 parasites on it. So I think the other fish are probably cool.
Wow.
They're smart. This is an alligator. My cousin got caught in it. It's from the Apalachicola River.
Really?
But there used to be alligators here, but now there's so many seawalls and so forth. But they would.
Now there's so many what now?
Seawalls.
Oh, seawalls. Okay.
Even in the residential areas, they have a lot of riprap.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's what we did. Back then. Over here. These are some of the fish. This one here, the swordfish, the thing that's unique about it is it can go into very deep, cold water, and it does not get a brain freeze like you and I would get, and so it has a layer of fat behind the eyes, which is a brain eater, and that's the only fish that I know of that does that.
Brain eater, okay.
A brain eater.
Wow.
And then, of course, here, this is a little bit about the Creek Indians. If you go over to Fort Walton, there is the Indian Temple Mound Museum, and you can learn more about them. This is just kind of an old picture of Joe's Bayou, going back to those days. And we have... We've got some little pieces, but they at the museum over there, they've got the really big pieces of pottery, But I had a friend, he and his father, they used to walk the shores. What was that, about 60 years ago or more? And so they would collect it,
Native fishing technologies.
Yeah. My grandmother's mother was half half Creek Indian.
Well,
on my father's side. They were Cherokee.
so you've got some Cherokee in you? Not enough for the
on the Texas side. On my Texas side.
Not enough for the oil well or the casino percentages.
No, I didn't get that lucky. Although the Cherokee Nation, they did send a letter to my grandmother. She gave it to one of her sons. He said, we're not interested in that. We don't like the way those Indians were treated. Okay. Anyway, here's a little story for you. All right. This is Mr. Kelly. He had this boat here, the Marina Queen. All right. And this is Rex Chambliss. He was the captain of that boat. I was there that day when this happened. JFK came out to Eglin for an air power show. And so all of these fishing boats, and I was on the Florida Girl, we all went to the Shalimar Bridge. And President Kennedy, he was in a convertible. And when he entered the bridge, all of these boats started blowing their horns. And so he stood up in the convertible and he waved to everybody all the way across the bridge. That night, they took him to my favorite Italian restaurant, which at that time was Perry's. And the Perry family, they have retired. But there is a young man who worked for the Perry family for 17 years, and his name is Tom Rice. And he has the recipes, and he has a restaurant in Fort Walton on Brook Street, and it's called the Magnolia Grill.
Oh,
Really good.
my wife and I ate there.
Isn't it good?
Yes, it was very good.
It's considered to be a five-star restaurant.
Yeah, right by the park, the bay,
Yeah,
the landing.
Yeah, by the landing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is considered to be a five-star restaurant, but it has a lot of history. It's like the Museum of Fort Walton. You know, it's got a lot of history in it, and now I think you have to have a reservation to even get in there for lunch. You know. But way back when, it was way back when it was $6. That was 50-something years ago. This is Dewey Destin's uncle. His name was Harold Francis, but everybody had the nickname. They called him Chubby. Notice he's got a gun and he's got a shark.
Ah.
And we have a fishing rodeo that lasts 30 days in October, the entire month. And Saturday is Shark Day. But if you want to catch a shark, you can charter a boat and they will take you out shark fishing. And there's a jaw over there that's of a tiger, no, hyper mega shark. I think of it. Anyway, it's huge. All right, and this is a boat that was the Memory, and this was built by Nick Maltezzo. He's my grandmother's brother, and his father. And if you notice, all these guys have their uniforms on, and this had to be like in the 40s, or maybe even late 30s. But there was Eglin, like I said, and Hurlburt. Hurlburt wasn't as large back then, but like it is today. But some things about Hurlburt, they have the helicopters, the cargo planes, the special ops. They train the Green Berets, and the other thing that they train there are the Doolittle Raiders.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
There was a girl that the first year I started teaching school, there was two girls that lived next door to me, and one was Sandy Youngblood, and the other one was Mimi Davenport, and they were flight attendants for Southern, and so anyway, my husband and I, he's a Vietnam vet, and so we were out at Hurlburt talking to the base historian, and he's going, I wish I knew where they, what fuels they use and this and that and the other. I didn't say too much. I said, I might give you a call in a little bit. So then I went to see called Sandy. Sandy, what's Mimi's daddy's number? And she gave it to me, and he was a Doolittle Raider. And so, yeah.
He was one of the Doolittle Raiders?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I called him and I said, call this man.
Now, did he get rescued? I understand they landed in China because they didn't have enough fuel to get back from Japan. And there was a big rescue story about that.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about I've seen documentaries and so forth, but we never discussed it,
Well, that's really cool.
So he got all the information, and then when the last Doolittle Raider
is he still here? No, he's
he lived
gone.
in Panama City.
Oh.
Yeah, and so anyway, but they had the big flyby, across Okaloosa Island, honoring these guys.
Well, on their mission when they left to go to Tokyo after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Didn't they launch off of Hobart Field? Is that where they launched
I don't know
from?
where they. I don't really know.
Okay,
I don't know if they.
I'm not certain of that, but
They trained. I just know that they trained there.
yeah.
I don't know where that was from. But I did read a book not too long ago. This is just something. And it was about this lady. She was the governess for at that time. It says Elizabeth and Margaret. And what was very interesting is that after Pearl Harbor, they this was in the book. They would say, "Do you have any gum chum?" And what was ironic about that is that my husband was in the Air Force. We're on a troop train during the night on our way to Berlin, where the wall is at, and the train comes to a screeching halt, and this guard, he knocks on the window, and so they said, "Lieutenant, go over there and see what he wants." And he said, "Do you have any Wrigley's gum?" And it made me, time goes on, but I said, "Oh, I wonder if this goes back to the days of Pearl Harbor." I thought it was kind of ironic.
Gum chum.
Yeah. Do you have any gum chum? Yeah.
Huh.
And so anyway, here's a little bit about if you go out to the Edwin Armament Museum. This is about Eddie Rickenbacker. And he was an ace fighter pilot. To be an ace fighter pilot, you had to shoot down 5 of the enemy planes. And so then he was shot down. I think it was at Harbinger over the Pacific, and he floated 17 days without food or water. By the grace of God, a seagull landed on his head, which he was able to catch and sustain his life. And then he said what I would have said: "I've spent the last night at sea as I ever intended to, so help me God." So anyway, but he would go in the evenings down and take a bucket of, bait, you might say, and he would feed the seagulls.
Thank the seagulls for that.
Saving his life.
Yeah.
This is Bob Sykes. He was one of our congressmen. He's the one who brought the military to this area. And then this is Roy Collins. He went out fishing by the buoy, and he caught this big king mackerel in 30 minutes, and he said, "Destin, the luckiest," at that time they probably said luckiest little fishing village. But anyway.
Oh, and then maybe the beginning of that slogan.
Oh yeah, that's where it came from. It came from him.
What was his name?
Oh, Roy Collins.
Okay.
Roy Collins. Yeah, right here. The Governor Leroy Collins. There he is.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is Red Bunsen.
Governor of
Florida.
Florida. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
He
right.
was very popular. Very, very popular. Yeah, people liked him a lot. And this is Red Brunson. He lived to be like 98 years old. And he restored the primrose, and then it's been restored again. And so this is some information there about the guy who owned the primrose. And what else do I have in here? And I was telling you earlier about Homer Jones. We have the blessing of the fleet. It's always on Ascension Day, which is always on a Thursday. It's 40 days after Easter. This is William Frank Davis, and here's a picture of him there. And I always called him my Commodore, but we had, I think, 57 fishing boats that were blessed at the blessing of the fleet. And so he coordinates with the priests. And which boat's coming up next, but they pray for each boat individually. And if for some reason the boat is out on a trip, like,
Well, is it a local Catholic or Anglican or Episcopal priest?
It's a Emmanuel Anglican Church, does it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is that your church?
Now they have the Week of Blessings, which is kind of,
Is that your church?
Yeah, I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
This is back in the old days.
And also, I would like to come back and do that complete audio tour do a complete video thing another time. But
I'm just giving you little bits and pieces.
yes, well, this is great. I mean, this is actually maybe better, but I still want to do that so the one will exist and be available for people to look at.
Oh yeah, I was going to say this is just you and me. It's not real. Now, see this picture back here. I was 12 years old, and I'm in there somewhere with a black uniform on. But my grandmother, my aunts, my cousins, so forth and so on. They were all members So, all right, next month I'll be 77. And so,
Next month, huh?
yeah, August.
I'm August 5th.
I'm
I'll be
August the 28th.
okay.
Yeah, well, so anyway, but if you see a flag like this, that
Yes.
means that that boat has been blessed and that the people that own that boat, they make their living for the sea.
Yeah.
See, this is what my husband and I do. We go, we go put that banner up every year, and that's Mike Hesse. He's retired now, but he was one of the priests there. But you cannot, people come up with time. Oh, I'd like to buy a flag. Well, they won't sell you a flag, but they do have T-shirts now that will have the flag on the back, and they change it a little bit every year. So. But the man who started it is the guy that's right there. His name was William Portwood Irwin, and he either graduated from Yale or Harvard with degrees in divinity and music. And but he said,
The one closest to the foreground standing.
The one that's got his hand raised.
Okay.
That's Cecil Woodward. That's got its head bowed that you see, and then the priest there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
more
or less in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, he said, where I'm from, we bless the fields. He says, we're going to bless the fleet. And so there are about 20 boats in those days.
Yeah.
And so it's 40, like I said, 40 days after Easter. And then down on the harbor, if you happen to be there, they have a big fish fry. And the fishermen, they provide the fish, which, gosh, the last few years it's been red snapper. They cook it.
When do they do it? What's the date?
The date changes every year. 40 days after Easter, Ascension Day.
Oh, okay.
See here this boat here how the
on the same day as the blessing of the fleet, Ascension Day. 40.
Ascension Day.
Yeah.
40 days after
the
Easter.
date that
Yeah.
the Bible records Jesus ascended after his resurrection.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but they will. Yeah, all of these boats, they will line up. You can see all the people there. There's the priest right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe next year I can catch that.
Yeah, I'll have to see what the date is. But my husband, he coordinates the fish fry, and I decorate the tables.
Oh.
So anyway.
And that's, I guess, down on the Harbor Walk, right? So.
There's a restaurant, and it's called Brotula's.
Yeah.
It's down there on the water in their parking lot. They clear out the parking lot that day, and then they set up a tent and they have a service. And then after the service, at about 5 o'clock or maybe a little after, then that's when they will start the fish fry. And like I said, the fish has been caught by the fishermen, cleaned by sextons, and cooked by Brotulas, and they have got a wonderful chef. He's really good, So, but this is where for years pray for these.
My wife's signaling that I need to hurry up, so can we do it fast? Finish up? Yeah, she did.
Well, let's see.
I'll plan to come back again and do a complete
tell
one.
me what you'd like to see.
Well, give me just a quick pass through the rest of the museum, if you would, and just.
Come this way, look.
Okay.
All right, and this is our rodeo room. We have a video here of the early rodeos. This is of interest. This is the tournament leaderboard. These are the winners from last October.
Yeah. Well, we're planning to be here. I'll see what I can do on that date too. Let's cover the rodeo for the month.
And on the last day, the last night, they had kind of like a big Halloween party. I mean, people on the boat say dress in costume, and one guy, he was dressed up like a fishing lure.
Okay.
All righty, and then this is a pretty good picture here of the East Pass.
Yeah, that is.
Going out to the Gulf. Now, this is a side story. There was a lady that was here last week, and she had been on a wave runner and got thrown off, and At any rate, she got caught in a current, and there were 200 boats out looking for her with helicopters,
Wow.
and it took them 4 hours to find her. She had washed out 3.5 miles.